How we doing, everybody? And happy Friday. We made it to the weekend here, and that means a little bit of Brewer baseball and Packer football coming up on the weekend. Welcome to Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trage. I'm your host, Trage. We're going to be talking Brewers. We're going to be talking Packers. We're going to cover both series and the last preseason game for the Packers here coming up Saturday against the Seahawks. With that, we're going to jump right into it today. We're going to be rolling out the Brewer talk. They got the Padres coming up here for a 3-game set from American Family Field. Starting pitchers for tonight's game, Brandon Woodruff will get the start for the Brewers. 2-1 on the season, a 2.89 ERA for Woody. 30 Ks on the season. Woodruff has been solid for this Brewers team. He came back from injury, roughed up a little bit in his last outing. The home run ball got him, but look for big things out of Brandon Woodruff here against the Padres. And then looking at on his against him will be Yu Darvish. He's sitting at an 8-9 record on the season, a 4.35 ERA, and 138 strikeouts. Don't let that record fool you. Yu Darvish is still a dominant pitcher. He's just been a little bit iffy this season, but the offense out there for the Padres hasn't helped. The situation with the San Diego Padres hasn't helped Yu Darvish this season. Looking at the matchups here, for the Brewers, looking like Mark Canha, he's hitting 286 against Yu Darvish. William Contreras, 333. Tellez, 333. And Terang, 333 overall. That's about it for hitting against Yu Darvish this season for the Brewers. Yelich in 22 at-bats against him in his career. He's at a 182 average. So you take with that, I mean, Yu Darvish has been dominant over his years. So looking at those averages, that doesn't surprise me. You get hits few and far between against a guy like Yu Darvish. So I see Brewers offense coming into this game. They've been hot as of late. Hopefully they carry that over into this Padres series over the weekend. Looking on the opposite side for the Padres against Brandon Woodruff, the most at-bats against Woodruff have came from Ben Gamel, actually. 14 at-bats for him. He's got a 214 average. Matt Carpenter's sitting at a .083 average against Woody. Manny Machado, 286 average and 7 at-bats. Juan Soto, a 167 average. Tatis is sitting at a 222 average against Brandon Woodruff. So not great career numbers against Woody. Woody's kind of had these guys' numbers they were all in different uniforms. I mean, you look at Ben Gamel, a lot of that was with the Pirates. You look at a guy like Juan Soto, that was Nationals. And Manny Machado, I mean, Dodgers, now with the Padres. He's faced them in different uniforms, and he's been successful against them. So hopefully Woody can keep that rolling into this start here. He got a little roughed up in his last outing. The home run ball bit him. But look for Brandon Woodruff to bounce back from that and have a dominant performance here for the Brewers against the Padres as they come to town for this Friday set. We'll look at the Padres stats first before we jump into the Brewers stats. On the season here, leading them in average actually is Kim, second baseman. He's sitting at a 280 average. Xander Bogaerts is coming in at 263. Tatis at a 261. Juan Soto has been struggling as of late. Hopefully he keeps that struggle going over the weekend here before he can get hot after he leaves town. I don't care. But he can keep struggling over the weekend. A 259 average for Soto. Machado is sitting at a 250 average right now. And Jake Cronenworth coming in 229. Home run wise for him, Manny Machado and Juan Soto are tied at 24 apiece. Tatis has hit 20 so far on the season. Gary Sanchez added to that Padres team, comes in at 16 home runs. Gary Sanchez had a revelation to his career when he went out to San Diego to play with the Padres there. Looking on the pitching side, Blake Snell's leading them in ERA right now, 2.73 ERA for Blake Snell. And it looks like the Brewers will miss Blake Snell in this series. So that's okay. Blake Snell pitched in their game against the Marlins. So good to see that we will avoid Blake Snell in this series here. But other than that, for pitching-wise, Josh Hader leads them. So we might have to face the Haderade here in this series. So hopefully come up with some big hits here, and we don't have to see Hader in a save situation for the Padres. But with that, we are going to jump into Game 2 here of the weekend, and that'll be a matchup of Freddie Peralta and Avila. Avila is sitting at a 0-0 record for the Padres, a 1.17 ERA for Avila. He's been having a great start to his career for the Padres. 7 games pitched, 1.17 ERA, 23 innings pitched, in total 28 strikeouts on the season for Avila. He'll match up with Freddie. Freddie's sitting at a 10-8 record. He's got a 3.97 ERA, 168 strikeouts for Freddie on the season. Freddie's been impressive, especially as of late for this Brewers team. 168 strikeouts and a 1.18 whip. That's impressive stats out of Freddie Peralta, fastball Freddie, as they like to call him. Nobody in this Brewers lineup except for Santana has actually faced Avila on the season. He's coming in with a 0 average against Avila. On the flip side of that, Padres, just about everybody's seen fastball Freddie. Looking at averages here, Xander Bogaerts has actually got the best average against Freddie, 667. Cronenworth, 667. A bunch of 300 averages against him there, Gamel and Grisham. And then we're looking at Cooper coming in at 250 average. Other than that, some struggle. Hopefully Freddie keeps rolling into that game. And then on Sunday, a 1-10 start for the Brewers. Michael Wacha will go up against Adrian Hauser. Wacha sitting at a 10-2 record on the season, a 2.63 ERA, 85 strikeouts. Hauser sitting at a 5-4 record on the season, a 4.28 ERA, 75 strikeouts for him. Brewers have hit decent against Wacha in their careers. Adames, a 400 average against them. Brian Anderson, 286. Mark Canha, 333. Tellez, 333. And Yelich, 316. On the flip side of that, against Hauser, Gamel and Grisham have the best averages. Grisham with a 500 average, Gamel at a 429 average against Adrian Hauser. So I'm looking for some big offensive showings there against this Padres team. And I think that could come from the boost of having Christian Yelich getting back into the swing of things. Yelich has been struggling a little bit as of late for this Brewers team. Just pulling up his stats here real quick. In his last 7 games, Yelich is actually hitting 233. In his last 15, 258, but in his last 30, 290. So he's been slipping as of late for this Brewers team. 7 hits and 30 at-bats in his last 7 games. I look for him to come off the schneid a little bit. He'll get back into the swing of things. I mean, we've seen Yelich in his complete droughts. Yelich is still making hard contact with baseball. He's still producing for this team. It's just not as heavy of a clip now. The other half of the offense is heating up for the Brewers, and that's what's making Yelich's slump here look a little bit lesser. Before the whole offense slumped, Yelich looked even worse because he was supposed to be that guy. Now when Yelich has got this little slump here, 7 for 30, 233 average, yeah, does it suck? Would we hope that Christian Yelich was just as hot as everybody else, like Willy Adames, Tyrone Taylor, William Contreras coming into this? Yeah, I mean, that would be awesome, but it's not practical. I mean, he's going to go through a little bit of a slump here and there, and we're in that slump right now. It's not a complete slump, though. He's still producing. He's still picking up hits here and there. So hopefully we see Christian Yelich in this series start to take off again, and with the rest of the offense. Hopefully the rest of this offense keeps on rolling for this Brewers team. Other than that, with stat-wise right now, William Contreras has been hot as of late, along with Tyrone Taylor and Willy Adames. In Willy Adames, over the last 7 games, he's hitting 385 with a 1.159 OPS, 3 home runs and 9 RBIs. Contreras, 316, 1.037 OPS, 3 extra base hits, and 4 RBIs. And Tyrone Taylor over the last 7, 500 average, 1.465 OPS, 5 extra base hits, and 4 RBIs. Those are some impressive stats out of 3 big swingers there for the Brewers. I look for them hopefully to carry that into this next series. If there was going to be a guy I had to think was going to fall off, I think Willy Adames is finally finding that bat. He's kind of taken that launch angle a little bit out of that swing, and he's kind of just trying to drive the ball on a line through these gaps, which is good to see out of Willy Adames. I mean, that's what we've been waiting for out of Willy Adames. If I had to think of one guy who might falter off a little bit, it might be a guy like Tyrone Taylor. We've seen this in the past with Tyrone. He gets hot, he cools off, he gets hot again. So, I mean, I hope not. I hope Tyrone stays hot, just as hot as he is right now. He can continue hitting like this or even close to this for the rest of the season. I just think if any one of these three is going to falter off here, I think it's going to be Tyrone first. Contreras, he's been a consistent bat all season for the Brewers. 275 average on the season, an 801 OPS right now, 111 hits, 58 RBIs, 13 home runs. He's been a solid bat and the Brewers in that trade, when they got Pompous and they got William Contreras, they dealt. That was a heck of a deal. Sometimes I hate this Brewers front office, I really do, but that was a heck of a deal for this Brewers team. I mean, you look at a guy like Yoel Pompous on the season here. He's got 56 games appeared in, a 4-3 record for him, 3 saves, 22 holds, 58 innings, only 40 hits given up, 12 earned runs, 7 home runs given up on the season, 12 earned runs, and 11 walks, 66 strikeouts. He's got a 10.2 K per 9. That's some impressive stats out of Yoel Pompous. And to get him and William Contreras in that deal, where all they had to do was give up a guy like Esteury Ruiz, he's a speed threat on the bases. He's had a ton of stolen bases for the Oakland Athletics. But to only have to trade one outfielder from a room that you already had that was crowded to get a guy like William Contreras, and then to add an arm like Yoel Pompous, we didn't expect this out of Pomp, and all of a sudden he just turned into the guy to lead you into Devin Williams. That was a heck of a deal by Matt Arnold. I don't know what they saw, if they saw something in Pomp when they brought him over. I mean, we saw it in William Contreras. We knew Contreras was a pretty good hitter from what we saw with the Atlanta Braves. We just didn't know what Pompous was going to bring to this Brewers team. And he's brought some explosive stuff. He's brought the ability to set up games for Devin Williams and to get hold games at that 1-1 tie and get it to the 9th. And that's what's been most impressive about this Brewers team here in this season. But other than that, I'm looking at the rest of the stats here. And we are looking at guys like Andrew Monasterio. His average actually has dropped over this last week down to 257. So look to see Andrew Monasterio kind of pick it up here over this next weekend. Hopefully gets back out there and just continues to hit like he was earlier in this season up to about the Rangers series. The Rangers series where he kind of ticked off. He's still hitting the ball hard. That's the thing. He's hitting the ball hard. He's just not finding the holes that he was finding before. So hopefully Andrew Monasterio over the weekend here picks it back up. Other than that, that's about it for Brewers stats that I really wanted to jump through right now. But I did see with the Brewers here, there has been talk that the Brewers were in on Pete Alonso at the trade deadline. And to me, that's baffling. I listened to what Matt Arnold said, and he wanted to get guys they're a defensive oriented team. So he wanted to get defense first. And then he wanted guys who weren't going to disrupt the clubhouse. I have watched Pete Alonso. He's a hothead. He is a hothead. And if you're worried about disrupting what this clubhouse has in it, I think Pete Alonso would disrupt everything. I mean, with his tendencies to blow up, countless times here he's been pegged and charged the mound or almost charged the mound, gotten shouting matches. I think he would have been a bad his bat. If you look at his bat would have been great. It's kind of like adding a guy like Manny Machado. Manny Machado, if he brings his glove and his bat to the party, I would take Manny Machado any day of the week, but I don't want the flip side of Manny Machado. And same with Pete Alonso. You would take his bat. I would take his bat. I would take him at first base. I would take him at the DH spot. But I would not want what comes with Pete Alonso on the backside of it. And that's where I'm looking here with this Pete Alonso deal. But now they're looking that the Brewers made a really big push. They couldn't get that last little bit, but they made a huge push apparently for Pete Alonso here at the trade deadline. They talked about it was going to be a blockbuster trade to get him into the Brewers uniform. And I probably wouldn't have yelled too much about it if they got him. But looking at it and thinking about it here, that would have been a deal that the Brewers, they might not have wanted. And plus, you'd only get a rental out of Pete Alonso, and that's not really what the Brewers are looking. They're not looking to get a rental or a guy that's going to hit free agency right away, and you're not going to have much control over that guy. So looking at Pete Alonso there, they're talking about even into this offseason, they could still be looking at adding a guy like Pete Alonso to this lineup. So we're looking at trades for Pete Alonso, hypothetical trades that we would deal for Pete Alonso. And I saw a lot of people, they were throwing up hypothetical trades and everything like that. And I saw one, they were talking about Tyler Black going for Pete Alonso. I don't see why you would trade a guy like Tyler Black for Pete Alonso. You look at him down in in Double A for this Brewers team here this season here, and he was impressive. Tyler Black, 308 at bats at Double A, 14 home runs, 48 RBIs, 77 strikeouts, but 61 walks and 47 stolen bases, a 273 average. That's impressive stats right there. I know everybody says, "Oh, it's just Double A," but that's where you judge talent. And he has an impressive eye at the plate, and he's got an impressive contact swing. And then we look at him up at AAA right now. He's got that 218 average. He's been a little bit cold to start here for AAA Nashville. But would you trade a guy with the value of Tyler Black, a guy who could be a cornerstone, or he's got that potential to be that third baseman that we've been waiting for the Brewers to get? We haven't had a third baseman, come through this Brewers system that was just a cornerstone, the guy we could throw out there. We haven't had a corner infield guy come through this minor league system that we've kept and just put there at first base, and that's where he could stay. And we didn't have to worry about every season who we were going to get, some no-name free agent or some washed-up free agent like Luke Voigt, Darren Ruff. We've tested the waters with Chris Carter in the past. We had Lyle Overbay for a little bit, Matt Reynolds. Look at third base over there. We had, countless times with Eric Sogard where we attempted him over there. We attempted a guy like Luis Urias. I mean, we're looking at it now. We had guys like Aramis Ramirez over at third base, and all those guys were productive hitters in their time, but the Brewers got them when they were on the tail end. They were getting to the end. And that's where Tyler Black fit him in that fold. That's the third baseman we've been waiting for. So I wouldn't go for that trade at all right there. And I know there was a couple other ones they were talking. Gasser going for Pete Alonso. Do you really want to trade one of your top pitching prospects for Pete Alonso, a rental? You're not going to be able to afford. Then you look at a guy like another one, Luis Lara. Would you actually make the deal to send Luis Lara, 18-year-old prospect already up at high A, who's been producing at high A, just below a 300 average? Would you send a guy like that to the Mets for Pete Alonso? I don't know. I wouldn't. I mean, Luis Lara's got a ton of upside. He's got the ability to jump from high A here to Double A really quick and get up to that Triple A spot. He's right behind Jackson Churro, and he could be another cornerstone outfielder for you here of the future. I don't think getting a guy like Pete Alonso back for Luis Lara is a great deal. I think you could get more or get someone else for Luis Lara if you were going to explore that trade avenue. And then another one they were talking, and this was going to be a package deal here in the offseason I saw, was Pete Alonso and right-handed pitcher Drew Smith for Tyler Black and Russell Smith. I still don't jump at the Tyler Black trade for Pete Alonso. I don't think that would be a great deal for this Brewers team here, looking at the state of where they're at this season. But with that, I'm going to jump out of the Pete Alonso talk because I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's in the Brewers' best interest unless if they think they're going to get a different form of Pete Alonso where it's just the baseball player and not all the extra crap that comes with Pete Alonso. But with that, I'm looking at some of the injury report here, and it looks like Julio Teheran is going to start a rehab assignment. So some good news there for Teheran. He's going to begin a rehab assignment here August 25th for the Timber Rattlers. So that's some good news for the Brewers. Get another arm back from the IL. Get him back. Maybe put a guy out in the bullpen. Maybe Teheran goes out to the bullpen. Maybe Hauser goes out to the bullpen. And you open up a spot for Teheran in that starting rotation. It's great that you have the ability to mix between arms out there. So good news there for the Brewers on the injury front that we are getting Julio Teheran back here soon. He's going to high A, so I only expect him to make a couple starts down there and then work his way back up to the Major League roster. With that, though, Looking at yesterday, 2 days ago, Jackson Churro actually set the record for the most. He's actually Biloxi's all-time RBI leader. He set it on Wednesday. He got RBI number 75 and 76 on the season. So impressive there for Jackson Churro, a promising prospect for the Brewers. Hope to see him come up here pretty soon for this Brewers team here in the next season. I'm going to guess next season halfway through, maybe towards the end, unless if the outfield's flourishing and there is no spot for him, then I don't know what you do. But I could see halfway through next season or into the tail end of the season next year to see a guy like Jackson Churro back up with the Brewers. But other than that, we will check out the minor league stats real quick. Just see what's been going on with AAA Nashville. Keston Hiura still at that 316 average. Peyton Henry at 298. Abraham Toro sitting at 292. And check out Owen Miller. He's down there at 262 right now for AAA Nashville. Jackson Churro got his average up to 281 now. Jefferson Cuero sitting at that 271 average down there in AA. And looking at the high A, let's see what we got for hitting down there. Eric Brown Jr., one of the top shortstop prospects for the Brewers, 262. Mike Bovee is coming in at a 283, and Brock Wilken at 262 right now. But other than that, we are going to fly around the league, and we will take a look at the out-of-town scoreboard here. Dodgers took care of the Guardians 6-1. Nationals beat the Yankees 6-5. Rockies lost to the Rays 5-3. Red Sox took care of the Astros 17-1. Guardians lost to the Dodgers 9-3. Cubs took care of the Pirates in 10 innings. Chicago scored 2 in the top half, 10. Pirates could not battle back. They scored 1 in the bottom half. They took the loss there. Chicago gets the win. The rest of the scoreboard here, Orioles beat the Blue Jays. Rangers lost to the Twins, so the Rangers are on a skid right now. The Brewers really did some damage down there in Texas. And then the Athletics took care of the White Sox 8-5. So some good-looking games there over the weekend here. The Cardinals will meet the Phillies. The Cubs will continue that series with the Pirates. 7:05 start for the Cubbies. Eastern time there. And then the Reds and D-backs will continue a series. Braves, Giants will start a series in San Francisco. That is about it for the out-of-town scoreboard here. So with that, we're going to jump into some Packers talk. And with the Packers, we are looking at this game here coming up against the Seattle Seahawks, coming up a noon kickoff here on Saturday. Seahawks have looked good here in the preseason, 2-0. Packers coming in 1-1. Drew Lock has been looking good for this Seahawks team. 22 for 30 on the preseason, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 interception. Sean Clifford leading the stat books for the Packers. He's had the most time. 33 for 45, 345 yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions for Sean Clifford. Emmanuel Wilson, 21 carries, 174 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And Malik Heath is leading the Packers in receptions and yards. He's been their top receiver, 8 receptions for 111 yards. The injury report, Jamal Adams is out. He's questionable for the Seattle Seahawks. Devin Witherspoon is questionable. Jackson Smith-Njigba is also questionable. Olu Aluwatima. Gotta get some easier names out there. He's the center for the Seattle Seahawks. He's questionable. And then Vi Jones is questionable. For the Packers, Tyler Davis, tight end, he is on the IR. Jackson Luan, defensive tackle, he's questionable for the Packers. And Anthony Johnson Jr. is questionable for this Packers team. But it looks like, according to Matt LaFleur, the Packers starters will play the preseason finale against the Seahawks. So it's good to see. We're going to see the Packers starting offense and defense out there. Love, like we've seen, has been the starters for both games. of the preseason so far. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in this game. He played 2 series against the Bengals and 3 against the Patriots. So maybe they'll ramp him up to a full quarter in this next one, or they might do a little bit less. We'll see what Matt LaFleur comes up with. He says it's going to be more of a gut feeling of what he thinks is going to happen in this one. He doesn't want to make decisions too soon. He doesn't want to set guys to, you're only going to play this, you're only going to play that. He's going to play them until he thinks he's seen enough to really make his decision easier for that week 1 game. And for his defense, he did mention everybody will play. The lone exception will be outside linebacker Rashawn Gary, who's still working on his way back right now. So good to see. We're going to see the Packers starting defense against this Seattle Seahawks team. That's what we're hoping for. We want to see everybody together at least once here in this preseason. And then we're looking at some of the preseason, or not some of the preseason, but some of the training camp highlights that we've seen over this past week. And the Packers, they practiced. It was hot. It was hot in Wisconsin here for the Packers. It was 101 we had up here in central Wisconsin. So I can only imagine how hot it was at Lambeau for them Packers practicing. And they practiced right through it. They had a 2-hour practice. They said it was good for, like, Love came out and he talked and said it was good to practice in the heat to really get mentally focused and accept that mental challenge of playing and practicing during that kind of weather. So good to see the Packers kind of embraced it, and there was no cramping issues or anything during practice. So good to see there. They had great preparation for it and everything for that practice. So it's just good to see the Packers kind of getting out there in the elements and really flourishing well out there. And it looks like the Packers, they look good offensively here in this training camp the last week of training camp. Love looked good. They have their whole playbook now, according to Love, and they're using it all, and we're going to see it all. And he's been using the whole field, multiple contributors there from the wide receiver room. That's what I think the Packers have lacked here in the past, was Aaron Rodgers was kind of one-dimensional. We saw against, 49ers. Yeah, it was the 49ers when he had Allen Lazard wide open across the middle of the field, and he decided to fire it up to Davante Adams in double coverage. He liked to go for that one guy. He's always had that one favorite guy. And everybody's got that favorite wide receiver, but you also have to see guys where they take their reads and they go through multiple guys. And that's what we're seeing with Jordan Love right now. Is the game he's speeding up, but his processing is still slow. He's still processing, and he's I said that wrong. I said that completely wrong. His processing is speeding up. The game is slowing down for him. And that makes more sense. That's what we're trying to see out of Jordan Love, is that he is processing the game quick and he can get all of his reads in there as fast as possible to be able to figure out where his target is going to be on those offensive possessions. So that's good to see out of Jordan Love. And we saw it a lot this week in training camp as he's looking solid out there for the Packers. Other than that, we saw a lot out of Sean Clifford, and Sean Clifford has impressed in this preseason. Not enough to be like, we're going to have a competition between Jordan Love and Sean Clifford for that number 1 spot. But he's impressed enough that he's that number 2 now. He's that backup quarterback for Jordan Love, and that's what we were hoping for, was a solid backup. And I think Sean Clifford's a solid backup for Jordan Love. Watched him at Penn State. He was solid there for Penn State. Now seeing with the Packers, and he's taken his moments and he's flourishing in them. He had a couple of interceptions, a couple of mistake throws, but every quarterback's going to go through it, especially a rookie quarterback. So good to see out of a good training camp for Sean Clifford and a couple of good preseason games so far for Clifford. Other than that, TJ Slayton has impressed in training camp for the Packers. He's just trying not to overemphasize the use of his hands, and he's trying to use a little bit of everything else and use his moves to get him through there. So good to see there out of TJ Slayton, more depth for the Packers there on that defensive line. And then Luke Musgrave is getting a lot of targets. So that's good to see, is that the Packers, they might have found their tight end of the future. So that's good to see. And they compare him to guys like Travis Kelce, just the speed. He's more of a wide receiver speed at the tight end position, the solid frame, solid body, 6'5", 252. Just impressive make of a guy right there. And he looks to be a promising target for Jordan Love here this next season. But with that, we're gonna jump into the Packers roster here and see if they got better, worse, or the same. So in this defensive line, they have the returners for this season, Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Chris Slayton, and Jonathan Ford. Their losses, Dean Lowry, Jaron Reed, and their additions were Colby Wooden, Carl Brooks, Jason Luan, and Antonio Maluti. So looking at it, I don't think they were really losers in it, but the dependability of Lowry and Reed is going to be missed by the Packers when they left in free agency. So it's going to be a lot of ground they got to pick up with guys like Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton, Slatton. Those guys are going to have to pick it up here in this next season for the Packers to really kind of produce what Dean Lowry and Jaron Reed did for this Packers team last year. Looking at inside linebackers here, returners Devondre Campbell, Quay Walker, Eric Wilson, and Isaiah McDuffel. So some solid returners right there. Losses, Chris Barnes, and then they added Tariq Carpenter and Jimmy Phillips Jr. So I don't think they got any worse at the inside linebacker room there. They added some decent talent there. So it's all going to be what Joe Barry can put together for this Packers defense here this next season. But with that, looking at outside linebackers, Rashawn Gary returning, Preston Smith, Justin Hollins, Kingsley Egbare, Jonathan Garvin, and Ladarius Hamilton. Additions, Luke Van Ness, Brenton Cox Jr., Kashawn Banks, and Kenneth Odimuga. It's going to really depend on when Gary can come back and how effective Gary is going to be. But if he's back, he's ready to go. That outside linebacker group already gets that boost. And then to see what a guy like Lucas Van Ness can do for this Packers team. Will he contribute right away? Will he be kind of a non-factor right off the bat? That's something we're going to have to wait and see here. In that cornerback room, Jair Alexander, Douglas, Keyshawn Nixon, Eric Stokes, Shamar Jean Charles, Corey Bellente, and Keandre Thomas are some of the returners for this Packers team. Additions, Carrington Valentine, Tyrell Ford, and William Hooper. I think they got better, and I think they got better simply because of the addition of Carrington Valentine. I think he's going to battle out for a starting spot. If he doesn't get it right away, I think he could move into that role if anybody struggles here this season or gets hurt. Hopefully not, but if gets hurt this season, I think Carrington Valentine can be added right in. I think they got better at that cornerback position. And then looking at the safety position, Darnell Savage, Rudy Ford, Dalen Levette, and Ennis Gaines have all returned. Adrian Amos has actually left the Packers here. And then Jonathan Owens, Tavares Moore, Anthony Johnson, and Benny Sapp III have been added to this safety room. I don't think they really got better there. I think the loss of Adrian Amos, a solid guy in that safety room for him, will really affect him this season. But hopefully the additions of guys like Owens, who was a regular starter for the Texans last year, could be valuable and could boost the safety room. And who knows, maybe you can move some guys around and move some guys back to that safety position. That's just a wait and see kind of thing for this Packers team. But with that, I think that'll be all. That's all I got for today in Wisconsin sports. All I got to say is get out this weekend, watch the Brewers. They have a big series here against the Padres before they get the Cubbies. So let's look for a series win here against the Padres. A big one tonight. Yu Darvish, Brandon Woodruff. Go down to the ballpark there. It is going to be a good game for this Brewers team. Looks like it is a 7-10 start. So get down to the ballpark. And with that, this has been Wisconsin Sports on the Go with Trades. Thank you guys for listening. Deuces, Brew.